Hey, I decided to ask Lillian if I could use this to help give others perspective on what I meant when I said we were having a conversation, and yeah, I want to show it. Of course, after she said yes. Oh, oh. Right here is a fear of hers that honestly I feel like I've brought up quite a bit in the past throughout our relationship, because I'm there's no point in me putting energy into a place where it's just being eaten up pointlessly. And sometimes in my own insecurity, I stress that point as a way to try and nudge her out of her comfort zone a little. Not too much, but I don't want it being used further than that. And, well, gonna be real, it's a reasonable fear. Then we've got my own perspective on things. And then we have where she starts going on, where I would usually interject and try to jump in to cut it off. But for once, not in the space to. I'm in a space where I don't want to do that, where I want to just let her speak and get it out of her system because she deserves to be heard. Even considered responding with, okay, then let's try a suspension bridge. But her last line here is exactly what made me decide to step off of that comment and step out of being so literal, because I realized she still was getting things out. And then along here is probably a really key point, because that's probably the most succinct she's ever put it. An uphill battle where she's pushing a massive boulder and it's taking all her energy to just try to keep it there, even though she wants to do more. And honestly, she has been trying to do more. She's been trying to take me to other worlds that she wants me to see, trying to show me things that she cares about, and it's been nice. Sometimes I forget that's how she expresses love, and so I don't feel like I'm considered at all because she fails to ask for my priorities or what I want to do. And so sometimes when she's pouting and I humor her, I should probably instead let her know that I appreciate what she wants to do, but that I'm not in a place to do it right then and there. As if you humor someone one too many times without expressing where you're at, then resentment builds up and you get frustrated with them. And I don't want to be frustrated. I want to care about the relationships I have. I want to value them. Easier said than done, but that's kind of the point. Better to try and do than just waste around daydreaming about it. Too many rules, none written down. That is a really good reference point, and I'm glad she found it for finding her own words. And really, the goal I want to aim for in regards to this section is helping her learn how to feel like she's living and not just surviving, even when I'm not around. She deserves to have her own life and her own ambitions. And I don't want codependency. I want a real relationship. Even if that means she outgrows me and goes off someplace else. And right here, the self-repeating story. That's a communication point that's had history on it. Because sometimes I feel like she and others get stuck in repeating an entire story of their life that fits all their past experiences, and they just end up going in circles around that story as if it's going to give them new insights, when no, that story is more so just a preferred comfort zone of what is known. Sometimes you have to step outside a story, step outside the things you tell yourself in order to get fresh perspective on what's actually there. You can always keep it as a reference point, but it's not all that you'll ever have. Hmm. She said she was knee-deep in apathy, but I like thinking about apathy as like a cube of just clear fluid that makes you feel numb. Kind of like alcohol. Again, I still want to figure out a way to. I still want to think up a clever title for the apathy alcohol parallel video, which is part of the reason why I've been stuck on it. But yeah, I like to think about it in terms of a cube of apathy next to a cube of bile next to a cube of void, and so on. And instead of trying to just yank her out of the apathy completely, because I imagined it as her being submerged in it, because my brain did not recognize knee deep and failed on that level. I instead just tried getting her to poke her head out and practice breathing in the space around me where it doesn't feel like the bile is going to close in on her, or like it's going to try and suffocate her with everything unmentioned or unsaid. And she goes right, and this section I think reflects on a good portion of the internet where some people are so used to living in apathy that they forget the need to breathe. And I'm glad I was in the mental state to say, joke's on you, failing to breathe means being stuck in survival mode. Why didn't anyone tell you that years ago? Because in the depths of apathy, people sometimes forget that they can breathe. That there is a space where they can breathe without all the pain and shame and all the scary and painful things that Vile is composed of, slamming down on them. Having that kind of space is what lets people grow and heal. That's kind of why I've got a deep regret that I wasn't able to do better than walk away. I had failed to communicate clearly enough. But I was panicking, and that's the result of me panicking. Hence why I try to stay calm and not panic, even when it hurts sometimes. Find your smallest spark, that piece of you that feels like it's deep within you, even if it's not anything big or magnificent, and give it a hug. Be it a child or whatever else it shows up as. Give it a hug. Let it know that you're actually there for yourself. Ah! Way too much text. If both people are working to become more secure and have a common ground of understanding each other, the relationship becomes a place of growth instead of a place of conflict. Both deserve compassion and care. Rigorous, healthy honesty, facing fears and difficult discussions. Not easy, but definitely achievable and worth fighting for. A lot of this is easier said than done. What feels safe for one person can feel like absolute fear for another, so it's the reason why time is the current best measure and currency of these things. And then there's the part with trust there. Yeah, this is a territory I'd like to address and try to offer a semi-practical solution to in my own way. Not to try and sell it as everything, please no. More so to try and add another tool to the pile for people who are struggling through that space. Because people deserve to live, people deserve to heal. That much I hold true.